Welcome to Full Moon Channel. In this analysis, we will explore a historical event that raises profound questions about the figure of Muhammad. We will examine the story of Zainab bint al-Harith, a Jewish woman from the city of Khaybar who indirectly challenged Muhammad's prophetic authenticity through a bold act offering him poisoned food. This episode involves not only personal and religious issues, but also a context marked by suffering and resistance. Following the conquest of Khaybar by Muhammad's followers, we invite you to join us on this journey through historical sources and records to better understand the implications of this event, the painful death of Muhammad, the father of Islam. To understand this episode, it is essential to contextualize the events surrounding Khaybar, a city located in the Arabian Peninsula that was home to a well-established and respected Jewish community. After a series of confrontations, Khaybar was conquered by Muhammad and his followers, resulting in the execution of men and the subjugation of the survivors to a state of vulnerability. Among the survivors was Zainab bint al-Harith, a Jewish woman who had lost loved ones during the conflict. According to Islamic sources, she orchestrated an act of resistance that carries profound historical and symbolic meanings. Zainab, aware of Muhammad's claims of being a prophet sent by God, decided to put his proclamation to the test. Her reasoning was straightforward. If Muhammad were truly a prophet, he would be under divine protection and would survive any attempt at poisoning. Otherwise, the poison could result in his death. With this in mind, Zainab prepared a poisoned lamb and offered it at a banquet attended by Muhammad and his companions. According to accounts, the episode unfolded as follows. Muhammad and his companions sat down to eat the lamb prepared by Zainab. However, upon taking the first bite, Muhammad noticed a strange taste in the meat and immediately stopped eating. Unfortunately, one of his companions, Bisha, did not have the same reaction and continued eating, later dying due to the high toxicity of the poison. Amid the ensuing commotion, Muhammad confronted Zainab about the motive behind her actions. Her response was direct and laden with significance. If you are a prophet, nothing will happen to you. If you are merely a king, then the people will be rid of you. This declaration was not only a test of Muhammad's prophetic authenticity, but also an act of resistance and defiance from a woman who had endured the harsh consequences of the conquest. Although Muhammad stopped eating in time to avoid the poison's fatal effects, he still suffered prolonged and painful consequences, showing that Zainab's act left not only physical but also symbolic and historical marks. Islamic sources recount that from that moment on, Muhammad began experiencing worsening pain over time. In his later years, he frequently mentioned a peculiar sensation. "I feel as if my aorta is being cut." This statement, repeated on various occasions, illustrated the intensity of his pain and the severity of the damage he attributed to the poison. To seek relief from his suffering, Muhammad resorted to various treatments, both traditional and spiritual. He underwent cupping therapy, used the medical practices available at the time, and relied on prayers offered on his behalf. In critical moments, he even invoked the intercession of the angel Gabriel for healing. However, the poison had caused permanent damage, and despite all efforts, no remedy was found. The events surrounding Muhammad's final days have given rise to various theological interpretations. Zainab's response, when questioned about her motives, raises an intriguing point. If Muhammad were truly a prophet, would he not be under divine protection? For Zainab, the reasoning was straightforward. If he survived, his authenticity would be confirmed. If not, his legitimacy would be called into question. Interestingly, Muhammad repeatedly stated, "I feel as if my aorta is being cut," a phrase that takes on a special significance when compared to the Quran in Surah 69 verse 44 to 46. It is mentioned that if a false prophet were to attribute words to God, God would sever their aorta. This coincidence has intrigued scholars and sparked debates over time. Was Muhammad's repetition of this phrase in his final days a symbolic warning about his prophetic authenticity? Or was it merely a natural consequence of the poisoning he suffered? This event remains an enigma, prompting diverse interpretations in both theological and historical contexts. This was not the only instance where Muhammad faced unanswered prayers. On another occasion, when his son Ibrahim fell gravely ill, Muhammad prayed fervently, asking God to spare the child's life. However, Ibrahim passed away, leading some followers to interpret the event as a sign that, despite his devotion, Muhammad did not always receive the expected divine protection or answers. Accounts further state that one of his wives, Maria al-Qibtiyya, openly questioned his role as a prophet after Ibrahim's death. She reportedly remarked, "If you were truly a prophet, your loved one would not have died." This public questioning deeply troubled Muhammad, allegedly prompting him to divorce her. These episodes raise questions about the efficacy of his prayers and the extent of his prophetic role. To conclude, it is important to reflect on how Zainab, a Jewish woman who had lost her family and community during the conquest of Khaybar, dared to challenge Muhammad's prophecy through a bold and direct act. In her view, if Muhammad were truly a prophet, God would protect him from the poison. If not, the poison would fulfill its purpose. The fact that Muhammad did not recover fully and repeatedly stated, "I feel as if my aorta is being cut" throughout his final days has opened the door to multiple interpretations. This narrative serves as an invitation to reflect on the authenticity and divine nature of Muhammad's mission, remaining a topic of ongoing historical and theological debate. This story invites contemplation, and for some suggests that Muhammad's ultimate fate may have been no different from that of any other mortal man. Meanwhile, Zainab is remembered as someone who left a challenge and a warning that continued to echo in religious discourse. The Bible offers various warnings about false prophets and provides criteria to discern whether someone truly speaks in the name of God. In Matthew chapter 7, verse 15 to 20, Jesus cautions, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will recognize them by their fruits. Are grapes gathered from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? So every healthy tree bears good fruit, but the diseased tree bears bad fruit." This passage highlights the importance of evaluating the fruits of someone's actions and words when they claim to be a prophet. A true prophet, according to this teaching, must demonstrate positive results that align with the will and divine principles. In the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy chapter 18, verse 22, God establishes a clear criterion for identifying a false prophet. "But the prophet who presumes to speak a word in my name that I have not commanded him to speak, or who speaks in the name of other gods, that prophet shall die. And if you say in your heart, 'How may we know the word which the Lord has not spoken?' When a prophet speaks in the name of the Lord, if the thing does not happen or come to pass, that is the thing which the Lord has not spoken. The prophet has spoken it presumptuously. You shall not be afraid of him." This instruction emphasizes that a true prophet is validated by the fulfillment of their words and their alignment with divine guidance. Those who speak without a real commission from God, or whose words do not come to pass, are exposed as false prophets. Thus, the Bible directs the faithful to observe the outcomes and the harmony with God's teachings in order to discern the authenticity of a prophetic message. In the case of Muhammad, the attempted poisoning by Zainab and his unanswered prayers raise for some questions about his prophetic mission. Although he quickly stopped eating the poisoned food, Muhammad suffered the effects of this action throughout his life. His repeated statement, "I feel that my aorta is being cut," draws attention when compared with Surah 69 from 44 to 46 of the Quran, which states that if a prophet falsely attributes words to God, his aorta would be cut. This coincidence has generated varied interpretations for some. The connection between the expression and his experience reinforces the idea of a warning. For others, it symbolizes a divine test. Another significant moment was the illness of his son, Ibrahim. Muhammad fervently prayed for God to save the child, but he eventually passed away. This event has also been interpreted by some as the absence of divine intervention in response to supplications in the Old Testament. True prophets like Elijah and Elisha frequently performed miracles and had their prayers answered in visible ways. In 1 Kings chapter 17 verse 21 to 22, for example, Elijah prayed for the son of a widow, and the boy was revived, clearly demonstrating God's approval. These events are presented as evidence of divine backing for the prophetic mission. The authenticity of a prophet, both in the Bible and the Quran, is often evaluated by their actions, and the fruits resulting from their mission in Matthew chapter 7 verse 15 to 20. Jesus teaches, "By their fruits you will know them. Do men gather grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles? Even so, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit." The Bible encourages the faithful to observe the fruits of the actions of those claiming to be prophets as they reveal their true nature. The narrative of Muhammad, marked by challenges and episodes of vulnerability, contrasts for some with the biblical description of a prophet whose prayers are answered and whose acts directly reflect the hand of God. In Jeremiah chapter 23 verse 16 to 18, we read a warning. "Do not listen to the words of the prophets who prophesy to you. They make you worthless. They speak a vision of their own heart, not from the mouth of the Lord." This passage underscores that a true prophet must have their words validated by God without seeking personal satisfaction or distorting the divine message. It reminds us of the importance of evaluating with discernment the words and actions of anyone who claims a prophetic role, considering whether they are in harmony with God's teachings and if their fruits reflect that authenticity. Additionally, there is a story that says that during the early preaching of Muhammad, many Arabs expressed skepticism about his revelations. Instead of considering them as divine messages, some believed that he had been affected by a jinn, a supernatural entity from Arab tradition which was merely playing with him. This view was widely spread at the time and was mentioned by several individuals. Although many defended this interpretation, most of the Arabs who embraced Islam rejected the idea that a jinn was involved. For these believers, what Muhammad experienced was indeed a revelation from the angel Gabriel, not a deception caused by demonic forces. The act of Zainab can be interpreted as a test of faith and prophetic authenticity. For her, the central issue was to verify whether Muhammad truly enjoyed divine protection, as he claimed the consequences of the poisoning. Along with his repeated statement, "I feel that my aorta is being cut," left many with a question that still echoes today. Could there be a symbolic meaning in Muhammad's continuous suffering? This provocative episode remains a point of debate among scholars and religious figures who attempt to interpret what such an experience represented in the context of his mission. For some, it is a test that reinforces the prophetic narrative. For others, it is a sign that raises doubts. The narratives about Muhammad and comparisons with the biblical prophets highlight the importance of seeking truth with discernment. The Bible and other scriptures teach that those who claim divine authority must be evaluated in light of their actions, fruits, and alignment with God's will. Just like Zainab, throughout history, many people have tested and questioned prophets to determine whether their missions were truly rooted in God's will. This call to reflection, inspired by both biblical teachings and history, invites believers to remain vigilant and critical of any prophetic claims. The careful analysis of the lives and actions of those who present themselves as spiritual leaders continues to be an essential practice for those seeking to understand the true will of God. We thank you for joining us on this journey of historical and theological analysis. If you wish to continue exploring questions of faith and spirituality, subscribe and turn on notifications to receive our upcoming content. May God bless you, and we'll see you soon.